Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, there are artificial Christmas trees, and there are real Christmas trees. So let's go over some of the features and decorating tips that you may need to know when you do get your tree, whether you get an artificial or a real. Let's start with real, because a lot of people are moving towards that. They like to have that scent in the house. Probably the most popular are the Scots pine. Now, Scots pine is sharp needled, so when they do drop and dry, you step on them, you will know. It's like stepping on little needles, so be very careful and do a good cleanup. For this, I do highly recommend that you can get a Christmas tree bag before you even bring it into the house. This goes over the entire tree. Now, in order to pick out a good one, yes, it has to be unfrozen. If it is cold and it is frozen, then you are to pick it up by the trunk and bang it on, let's say, a concrete walkway, etc., so that you can drop the branches as much as possible so you can see where there may be gaps in the branching. Now, this doesn't happen as much, but it does do that. You also want to take a look at the amount of needles coming out. There will be an awful lot. And those needles, you'd rather have them stay at the Christmas tree lot than have them, let's say, in your car, in your yard, or possibly even in your house. So, when do you pick out your Christmas tree? Christmas trees really need to be out of the woods and cut down before the first snow gets on them. The reason for this is Scots pine and a lot of other evergreens will actually yellow their tips if they aren't. In other words, they get snowed on, etc., making them slightly unsightly. Now, I have to admit, in the past, I have seen some Scots pine in particular actually spray painted to cover up these yellow tips. It doesn't last long. It can rub off, and you should be aware of that. So if you're suspicious, ask. And I don't think you'll find it very often anymore because of issues with staining. So, picked out your tree, you bounced it up and down a few times, it looks good. Now take a look at the base. The base of the tree should be fairly straight. And remember that you're going to lose at least the bottom 3 inches of the tree. You've picked it out, they've got it in the lot, and what are you going to do once you get it home? It's in a Christmas tree bag. First of all, you're going to put it out in a shaded spot, out of the wind, out of the sun, where it's cold. Because it's a little too early to go and put it indoors. It'll dry out far too quickly. So, you need to put it in the right conditions. So, cold, out of sun and wind, and it will last much longer. It won't dry out, it won't desiccate the tips, etc. You will make a fresh cut. Now, at the base, you need that 3 inches gone. It's going to be a good, sharp saw cut. The other thing that you need to know is that you don't do that until you're ready to bring it inside and stand it. Now, all the real Christmas trees need to be stood in deep water. So this way, you know that they're getting lots of moisture coming up into the needles. And by doing that, you'll find your tree lasts longer, sheds less needles, and of course is less of a fire hazard. So you've got all this thought out and you've got it all planned, and you're going to go and set it up and bring it in. Don't forget to tie it up. Very often what happens is a Christmas tree will get knocked over by children playing. They get excited. I wonder why. I still get a little excited when I get near all my presents under the tree. I've been a good boy. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so, always go and make sure that it's going to have a large base Christmas tree stand that holds a lot of water deep. Get it in there, get it standing straight, get it tied off so that it can't be knocked over. Now, we want to light this tree. And when we light, we used to use the big old lights that got hot, and they were far more of a fire hazard. If you've got these lights, just get rid of them. Then we went to small mini lights, and they were fine, but they usually got hot, and not all of them were cool. So some would be hot, and there is still potential for fire. But also, they got lost in the longer needled trees. You will go and get today the LED ones. Now, these are cool. They're brighter. They use less electricity, and they last a long time. So let's upgrade. Let's go and get them for the tree. Now, how do you put them on? First of all, you want an extension cord coming from the middle of the tree up near the trunk. So you may want to tie it on or twist tie it on to the center where all the ends are, where you can plug all the lights in. Pull it straight down and out to a plug that's easy to reach. And if you have to use even more extension cord, please do. Make it easy for you so you do not have to go in, through, and around and knock over the lights and the ornaments, etc. every time you want to turn the tree on or off. This may need 2 extension cords, and sometimes what I do is I do recommend it because you can go one to the wall, one out close to the edge of the tips of the trees, and the other one goes up into the tree. By doing it, you can just reach down at the edge of the tips of the trees and unplug without going to the wall or going in to the center of the tree. The decorations of the tree are critical. When you put the lights on, please don't string them around the outside so you see all the wires. Try and weave them in and out, up and down and through, so that you're not seeing those wires going from branch to branch, tip to branch, tip to branch, tip. It's ugly. So go up and down, up and down, up and down. Now you'll use a lot more lights. Your tree will be brighter, shinier, and better looking. And that's what we're looking for. So go up and down each branch so that you have at least one set of lights on each one. They all plug into that center plug in the center of the tree. The blank part of the cord on the lights goes straight down the trunk and to the branch where you want to go up with the lights. Some people will go up one side, down the other. Some people will just make sure that they've got at least one set of lights on there. Depends on what you want and the look you want. And then once you've got all that on, you want to go and you want to do the inside of the tree. Now, the easiest way to fill in the gaps in that tree, make that tree look even fatter, thicker, better looking, is glass balls. Now, these will be your glass balls that you hang inside. Now, they can be any color you want. I like green because green visually will help block. If the tree is green, the balls are green, and it makes the tree look that much fuller. But you can also put on red, silver, and gold. It's up to you. And let's say your lights are all white, okay? Then you can do any light you want. But very often you want to match the glass balls to the color of the lights on the trees. It looks more effective as well. Especially when the lights reflect the same color as the bulbs. So the bulbs, the lights are all one color. Very, very effective. You'll then go and decorate the tips. Now, the tips of the branches are alternate. In other words, the tip will have a light, hopefully out somewhere near the end. You'll put some type of a pick, an ornament that's on the top half. On the bottom half, you can actually go and hang something like a plastic icicle or another ornament like an angel or little Santa Clauses. So it's important that you realize you're doing the underside of the branch, the tip of the branch, filling in there, and then you can go and you alternate the type. Now there's going to be at least, I would say, 3 types of ornaments on a tree. So that means if you think you need 18 ornaments altogether, you may actually need 6 of each, 6 of each, 6 of each to put so they're symmetrical. This will make your tree much prettier and more restful to the eye. In most cases, it's 18, depending if it's a fairly large tree, it's 18 of one kind, so you're actually doing 3 times 18 ornaments, and still having to do the ones underneath that hang down. These could be more glass balls. These can be anything you like. Now, the last thing you're going to put on, and it's always the last, and for a very large number of people, it is the hardest. And the neat thing is that it's garland. And this tinsel garland has to be symmetrical. It has to droop between branches. And it goes, and usually you start at the back and at the bottom and work your way up and down, all the way around. And then if let's say your tinsel garland is long enough and you want to go up at the back and then start on another branch, you can. You don't have to tie them together to make them all one. I don't recommend it, actually. I would go and I would just weave them in so that they seem to meet or mate or actually are actually attached to each other. If you get desperate and you got one that won't stay, use a little ornament hook to hold it onto the tree at that spot and work your way up all the way through until you get to the very top. Now, at the very top of most of the real trees, the branches get small, tight, and difficult. So what are you going to do? You just twist your existing garland, same kind, all the way up, and you lead it up that spire that's at the top, and then you go and you very gently, with your fingers, push it in as symmetrically as possible. It's very difficult, but it's something that you need to be patient with. Top of the tree, you put your topper on, the garland will actually go up into there, and so will a light. So it lights the top of the tree, whatever you put as a topper, whether it's an angel, a Santa Claus, who knows? Maybe it's a little drummer boy. Your choice. All of that will give you a much better looking Christmas tree. Now, with the Christmas trees that are real, you've got choices of kinds. I would stay away from any of the Norway spruce because they basically don't last very long. They drop their needles very quickly. They're cut last. You're going to bring them in last. And they're lucky to make between Christmas and New Year's Day looking decent. Scots pine is the choice for price as well as for availability and size. But if you want the best looking, the best ornamental, best looking Christmas tree, but also the most expensive, you want to go with the firs. Now, these firs can be all different kinds of firs because they do grow many different kinds. Balsam fir, Korean firs, Fraser firs. There is some people actually use the blue conifer firs, which I cannot justify, right? but the cost is much higher. These trees are slower to grow, harder to grow, but their branches are stiff. So you do all the same decorations, but you'll also find that you can put candles out on the tips on most of them. I would use the electric ones, that just turn on, turn off, as opposed to the real ones that they used to use simply because it's a fire hazard. Remember to make sure that you never leave the room with the Christmas tree lights on, that you don't leave them on all the time, that you turn them off when they're not needed as well. It's very important for fire. It'll make a lot of the tree last longer because it drops the temperature, and they're not going to dry out the needles as fast if you do that. Of all the one thing that I have always recommended and told people to do was that all the lower branches need to have bells on them. Now, we know the story behind It's a Wonderful Life, right? But it's also a burglar alarm. You're going to have kids getting close to that tree, and if they get close to that tree and that branch, that bell is going to ring. And if the bell rings, an angel gets his wings, but also, there's trouble in paradise and somebody's getting coal in their stocking because they're likely to be playing with the tree. And I'm talking not just about the kids either, Mom and Dad. So no inspecting those presents that are underneath there. And make sure there's lots of bells that can ring and be hidden as well. So you got to be crafty, and you got to make sure that the bells are on the bottom of the tree, always. It used to drive my daughters crazy when they were even in the crawling stage, because they get near there, they touch anything, the bells ring, and they go and they freeze and they look. Oh, I've been caught, like deer in the headlights. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.